No, it's the Pro model. Yeah, it's for professionals. Hello world, my name is Matt Spa, and I'm an audio engineer, videographer, and photographer in Atlanta, Georgia. And in this video, I'm going to do everything in my power to keep that light from reflecting off my glasses. Also in this video, I'm going to share my thoughts on the Movo VXR10-PRO Shotgun Microphone. If you're new here, my channel dabbles in all things audio, video, and photo related. If those topics tickle your fancy, I hope you'll consider subscribing. I'm not a stranger to Movo as a company. In addition to their own products, they're distributors for various other brands. In my experience, the Movo branded products are usually inexpensive bits of gear that get the job done, sometimes really elegantly. As far as the other products that they distribute, those have been a mixed bag for me personally. Some performing really well, others not so much. One of my very first videos was a review of the Movo VXR10, and in a subsequent video, I took two of them and made a stereo array that you can build by watching the video linked here and or below. But today, I'm looking at and listening to the Movo VXR10 Pro, which they were kind enough to send to me. For the record, they're not sponsoring this video, and the opinions I express are my own. There are plenty of mics like this out there. Rode kind of pioneered this form factor, and their mics were a big hit. That popularity meant that it didn't take long for other companies to bring similar products to market, and consequently there is no shortage of small, inexpensive, video-centric microphones out there. This VXR10 Pro, however, has one characteristic that for me made it worth reviewing. It comes in a box. It has an oversized case with little cutouts. It includes a Rycote lyre shock mount that is slightly difficult to engage. It includes two cables, a foam cover, and a dead cat to help reduce wind noise. I'm obviously a fan of the original VXR10, so in this video, I'm going to compare the newer Pro version with the original, and so I don't have to keep saying VXR10 over and over. I'll refer to them as the original and the Pro. The original is 3 inches long by 3/4 of an inch in diameter. The Pro is slightly larger at 3 3/4 inches long and 7/8 of an inch in diameter. Both are self-powered, no batteries needed, and neither one has any controls of any kind on the mic body itself. Both include a Rycote lyre shock mount and cables that allow the mics to be used with an audio recorder or smartphone via their 3.5mm outputs. This Pro model adds an additional output that is marked for headphone monitoring. This is not something that I would use since my cameras and audio recorders have dedicated monitoring outputs, but if you're using a smartphone or action cam maybe to collect your footage, this could be a handy way to make sure the mic is working properly and make you aware of any wind noise that you might want to try and deal with. Bear in mind, however, that you're only hearing what the mic is hearing. You're not hearing what your recording device is capturing. If you have the ability to set audio levels in your device, then being able to monitor that signal further downstream is going to be beneficial. Nevertheless, it's a nice addition that you might not expect to see at this price point, which, by the way, is $50 US at the time of this recording. In terms of build quality, the Pro, like the original, has a metal housing, it has a nice screen on the front, and solid cable jacks. The materials and construction are basically identical. My pair of VXR10s see a lot of action and have taken some pretty serious hits without sustaining damage of any kind, so I have every reason to believe that the Pro model is just as robust. The only real problem I had with the original VXR10 was that it was a bit hot when running directly into the camera. Sometimes, even with my camera preamps turned as low as they would go, the incoming signal would peak and cause distortion on my recording. For all my tests using these two mics, I set the preamps at exactly the same level. When I brought in the audio files, the Pro level averaged about 3 dB lower than the original, which is a huge plus if you plan to run this directly into your camera or smartphone. Consequently, for all the tests, I've raised the volume of the Pro so that the two microphones are peaking at the same level. I hope all that makes sense, and if not, post a comment down below with any questions and I'll try to clarify further. Two primary factors inform my microphone choice for any given situation: form factor and polar pattern. In terms of form factor, the Pro is small and lightweight, and it would make a great on-camera mic or work well on a boom pole, and it could easily replace the original for me in most situations. What makes the Pro special, and the reason for my review, is its polar pattern. A microphone's polar pattern is the area that it picks up sound in. Many people commonly refer to any on-camera external microphone as a shotgun mic, but that's not always accurate. A shotgun mic has a polar pattern designed to capture sound in a narrow area directly in front of the microphone. Most microphones of this type have a pattern that picks up sound in a pretty wide area that's called a cardioid polar pattern, so named because the pattern is shaped like a heart turned upside down. Proper shotgun microphones like the VXR10-PRO have what's called a super-cardioid pattern that rejects sound coming from the sides. The original VXR10, for what it's worth, has a cardioid polar pattern. I can better illustrate this by playing a test tone and rotating the mic in front of it, and here I've done just that. For the record, I got a comment that this footage looked fake. It looked like I'd just taken a picture and rotated it in post. So here's a little behind the scenes footage of what the test setup looked like, showing the product turntable and the dampening material. Incidentally, I'm working on a review of my small product turntable, and if all goes to plan, that video will include some green screen tips as well. Stay tuned. Here I've got the original microphone on the turntable, and I start my test tone, and as it rotates around, it peaks at about -6 dB. By the time it gets to 45 degrees, it's at -9 dB, and at 90 degrees, -14 dB. It continues to dip a little bit as it points the opposite way, and then as it rotates back around toward the sound source, it gradually increases in volume back up to that -6 dB. With the Pro version in place, I've bumped the level to match that -6 dB, but now at 45 degrees from the source, it's dropped to around -10 dB. And at 90 degrees, it's at -17 dB. That may not seem like a significant difference, but on the Pro model, as the mic rotates, it's dropping to a lower level, but more importantly, that level is dropping more quickly as the mic gets off axis from the sound source. In the real world, this translates into more focused audio and fewer post-processing hassles. Speaking of which, it's a kind of cloudy day out, but I'm gonna gather everything up and take it outside, set both of these microphones up on my recorder, and see if I can better illustrate what I'm talking about. Spring has sprung here in the southeastern US, and if I stay out here long enough, my equipment and my person will probably be covered in pollen. But for the sake of making my point, I'll soldier on. I've set both microphones on my recorder, and again, the settings on both preamps are identical. I'll match the levels in post. As I deliver the rest of this segment, I'll switch back and forth between the two microphones. I really can't ever record out here. I live in a pretty noisy area. There's a major interstate about a quarter of a mile that way that creates constant ambient white noise. And there's a busy street about 100 yards that way. If we're lucky, we might get a siren or two going by, or possibly one of the multitude of generous individuals who share their substantial subwoofer output with all who are in earshot. Oh. Two, the birds are enjoying the spring weather, and hopefully by now you're getting the idea. But I just know there's a truck that's gonna go by. Come on. I can't believe it. There's usually mowers going, there's dogs barking. My neighbor's dogs have been barking for 23 years. Well, anyway, this isn't a super ideal test for this kind of microphone because, like I said, a lot of the noise out here is ambient, and these microphones are designed to reject directional sound. But I think by this point, you probably have a good idea of the difference between a cardioid polar pattern and a super-cardioid polar pattern in a situation like this. Listening to that segment with headphones or earbuds will definitely give you a better sense of just how much more focused the Pro model is over the original. Again, it's not hugely drastic, but depending on the location and the directionality of the ambient sound you're dealing with, it will save you headaches in post, and it could be the difference between a usable take and one that's just too distracting to include. The only rule of video is to have good audio, and in certain situations, a super-cardioid mic will absolutely give you a better result than a cardioid mic. In my opinion, the VXR10-PRO is a welcome addition to the Movo line, and I say addition because it's not really an upgrade or even a replacement to the original model. The name's actually kind of confusing. I mean, they share a similar form factor, but the different polar patterns give the two mics different uses, and I could see myself using both even on the same job. In terms of the competition, most of what's marketed as shotgun mics really aren't, so in that instance, it's clearly a better solution. Like I've said about other products that I've recently reviewed, I wouldn't go into debt to buy it, but if you're looking for a good quality, real deal shotgun microphone, it's a lot of mic for 50 bucks and will likely serve you well for a long time. I hope this has been helpful for all you mic shoppers out there. If you're inclined, please throw me a like, add a comment, and consider subscribing. Until the next one, thank you for watching.